Hello, this is Kathleen,
And this is Sophie.
and today we'll be talking about solving quadratic equations. Quadratic equations can be applied to a variety of different real-world scenarios, including calculating area and speed. We'll be focusing on solving a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula and factoring. First things first, though, what exactly is a quadratic equation?
A quadratic equation is an equation that can be written in standard form. The equation is a times x squared plus b times x plus c. A, b, and c are real numbers, and a is not zero.
The first method to solving quadratic equations that we will cover is the quadratic formula. Let's show you how to use this method with an example equation. The equation we will be using will be 2 times x squared minus 8 times x minus 24 equals 0. To solve using the quadratic formula, we assign each term a variable. The first term will be a, the second term will be b, and the third term will be c. Before we plug the terms in, here's what the quadratic formula looks like. Now, plug all your terms into this formula.
From here, you can either solve the equation by plugging it into your calculator or doing it manually on pencil and paper. For the sake of this project, though, let's solve this equation manually. Let's start by simplifying inside the square root. The two negatives in front of the 8 would cancel each other out. 2 times 2 is 4, and 64 minus negative 192 would be 256. The square root of 256 equals 16.
Now you must solve for both the plus and minus in the equation. The two different answers, in this case, 6 and negative 2, are the roots of the equation. This simply means that those two answers, 6 and negative 2, are the x-intercepts of the quadratic function when graphed. And that's basically all the work you have to do for solving a quadratic equation when using the quadratic formula. The second method that we will be covering is factoring. Our example equation for this method will be x squared plus 8 times x equals negative 7. An important thing to note is that all quadratic equations must be set equal to 0 before solving. To fix this, just add 7 to both sides.
Now that our equation is ready to be factored, the first step of the factoring is to factor out the coefficient, which in this case is 1, so we don't have to. After that, isolate the b and c terms, which are 7 and 9. Then, you must find two numbers that add up to b and multiply to c. In this equation, those two numbers would be 7 and 1. Since we can't tell that there are two x's due to x being squared, we can split the x up into two different parts in the equation. We add 7 to one of the x's and add 1 to the other x. Then, set each of them equal to 0. Basically, you're trying to isolate the x in each of these equations. Because of this, we subtract 7 from the first one and 1 from the second. This leaves us with the roots negative 7, 0, and negative 1, 0. When everything is graphed, this equation looks like this. The x-intercepts are the two roots that we got from our answer, negative 7 and negative 1.
And that's how you solve a quadratic equation using factoring. We chose this topic because the quadratics unit was a little while ago, and we thought a refresher on it would be useful for finals. We dug a little deeper into the exact purpose of quadratics and the answers that these methods yield. Thank you for listening to our presentation.